What's up, everyone? This is Cold091. Today I'm doing a response video to wyattxhim. The other day he put out a video, most meaningful albums to him, and I've been meaning to do a video very similar to that for a while. I actually recorded a video called like the most important pieces of fiction, or like the most important pieces of art in my life, and then unfortunately got copyright claimed, so it didn't even get published. But I thought I'd respond to Wyatt. We were listening to Borat and the Gore, Patchouli Blue, partly because it's on the list, but also because I've been in the mood for this recently after getting back into Blade Runner and Akira and Ghost in the Shell, and it's been getting cold here, so it's amazing music for this time of year, and it's just an incredible record that I'll probably talk about more as we go deeper. But first of all, I want to start with Wyatt's video was not in order. Mine's not in order, but this is number one, no doubt. And I thought I'd start with number one. We have the Akira soundtrack. Now, I don't know how much is on record of my YouTube channel about me talking about Akira, but Akira is, by every single measure possible, my favorite piece of fiction to ever come out of humanity. I own the manga right in front of me. I own 3 Blu-rays of it. I have a binder behind me of the entire card set. I have a poster in front of me. I'm getting a tattoo on my shoulder next month. So it's a piece of fiction that changed me as a person, and to this day, it's not even to this day, there is no piece of fiction that ever will affect me as much as the Akira, because this is my number one and always will be. So here's the vinyl soundtrack, composed by Gaito Yamashimajumi. I totally butchered that. Japanese world music band with over 100 people. Just an unbelievable soundtrack. I found a good way to describe this album recently. It feels like it's Armageddon and the world is ending, and God is basically interrogating us, and he says, okay, prove your worth, prove that you are good, prove that you are a species worth protecting, and this is what we popped out. That is truly what the power and intensity of this record feels like to me. It's just so visceral in every aspect, so it's the greatest album in the history of humanity to me. My favorite, no, but to me it's the greatest album ever composed in the history of art, and the book is my favorite ever, the movie's my favorite ever. Akira influenced my life in more ways than I can ever explain. So that's the first selection. Alright, the next album is an album that, funny enough, me and Wyatt had in common. We have Within the Realm of a Dying Sun by Dead Can Dance. I'm not going to, but if you pan the camera up, you would see I have a poster of this record. To me, this is up there with Akira in terms of greatest achievements in the history of mankind. To me, like, artistically, not just musically, just artistically, the greatest achievements in the history of mankind. You got Dune, you got fucking Lord of the Rings, you got Blade Runner, you got Akira, you got Lord of the Rings, if I didn't say that, you got Empire Strikes Back, and then when it comes to music, you got Within the Realm of Dying Sun, Akira soundtrack, other ones don't come up on the list, but Deicide. To me, there are upper echelons within respective art forms, and within just music, Within the Realm of Dying Sun is up there along with Akira. This album means the world to me. A lot of times when I first found this band, I would listen to this band and cry so uncontrollably that I would not listen to it for a month or so. That was because I was going through a bad breakup at the time when I really found this band and fell in love with them. But at the time they were therapeutic, but at the same time it felt like they kept reopening the same wound because it was so emotional. But this band not only got me through a hard time, if not made it a little worse some nights, but they got me through a hard time. And to me, this album is the most transformative, ethereal, intense, claustrophobic, scary record I've ever heard in my life. It's really strange because it's beautifully composed. Every note on here is ethereal and akin to church music, but some parts of it are so full and visceral and intense that it's scary almost. Not because it's intimidating or it's hard to listen to. It's just so visceral, you know. It feels like you're being overwhelmed with emotion. So yeah, favorite songs on here are Xavier and Persephone. The whole album is amazing, but those are my two favorites. Xavier makes me cry, man. That song just, it speaks to my soul. I'm sure it speaks to most people's souls who listens to it, and it's just, there's nothing like it. So yeah, Within the Realm of the Dying Sun, one of the best albums in the history of music, and that is never going to change. Alright, the next album is The Uncanny Valley by Perturbator. Now, this is unfortunately not the vinyl, because I don't own the vinyl, but whatever. Uncanny Valley, Perturbator. Perturbator has always been one of my favorite musicians to ever live. I saw him live in 2022 with Health and Street Sex, and it was a life-changing experience. Perturbator to me is a musical genius. His composition, his atmosphere, his percussion, his sense of rhythm and flow is just unprecedented. So same with Akira. Saying this album changed my life is an understatement. This album not only influenced my love of Perturbator, which made me eventually get his entire catalog, it also reaffirmed my love of cyberpunk and noir and dark dystopian, authoritarian, tyrannical themes within music, within art, within movies, whatever. And this band, or I guess project, it's not really a band, just are geniuses, really. This album is so versatile. Neo Tokyo, which is an aggressive onslaught of aggressive dark synthwave, and then you got Sentient, which is an ambient, ethereal, kind of like post-punk synthwave masterpiece, and then Soul Zero, Uncanny Valley. Most songs on this record are completely different from one another, but they all have a similar theme, and that's of a dystopian cyberpunk future that is genuinely riveting and just incredible. So Perturbator always has been one of my favorite musicians to ever live. If you looked in front of me, you would see I own his entire discography, and I have a Health flag on the ceiling when I saw him with Perturbator. But yeah, Perturbator, just unbelievable musician that to me is a once in a generation talent. Alright, next up we got the Blade Runner soundtrack. Funny enough, Wyatt also had the Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack on his list, but to me, I love 2049 as a movie, but the soundtrack never really stuck with me. The soundtrack of the original, though, is incredible. Vangelis is a genius in every sense of the word. I'll be honest, I loved Blade Runner when I first saw it, but I didn't really get it. I thought the cinematography was stunning. I thought the atmosphere was stunning. I knew it was a classic, but I didn't really get it. But I've known Blade Runner for many years, and I picked the soundtrack up because I thought it was brilliant. But I knew there was a deeper meaning than what I was watching. What I picked up, I knew there was something more to it than what I picked up. But I liked what I picked up. But I didn't really properly get it until about 2 weeks ago. And I realized Blade Runner is one of the greatest films to ever exist, and that's never going to change. And the soundtrack's not any different. This album, much like Perturbator, represents my love of cyberpunk, my love of sci-fi, my love of old classic movies that are never going to be replicated. And this soundtrack is just mesmerizing in every sense of the word. I don't think it's as good as the Akira soundtrack, partly because I'm partial to the Akira soundtrack, but I think in terms of soundtracks, this is up there. Top two, up there with Akira. I can't think of anything comparable to those two. I mean, Lord of the Rings soundtrack is great, but it's not as unique as these, you know. Nothing sounds like Blade Runner, nothing sounds like Akira. A lot of things sound like Lord of the Rings. So to me, it's not really, it's a different stratosphere, you know. So I'd say this is up there with Akira for the greatest soundtrack of all time. And it's just a piece of history, and it's just unbelievable. So, yeah, Blade Runner, Evangelist. Alright, next we're going in a totally different direction. We got Conqueror, War Cult Supremacy. Original 2001 press, I believe. This I picked up on Discogs maybe October or a year ago. Yeah, this is the original pressing of War Cult Supremacy. To me, this has always been, for maybe the last year and a half, this is my favorite album of all time. It's still up there. It's still top 5, top 3, maybe number 1. And this album means a lot to me because one, it's my favorite album, one of my favorite albums of all time, if not my favorite. And this original press is just stunning. With the old layout, it looks like a demo, and the fact that it has the Death to Mankind logo as well as the Full Moon logo, because the guy was so lazy he didn't fucking take the other one off. So this album not only is a special record because it's just brilliant, but it also is a first press, and it's a piece of history. If I remember correctly, I have a sticker that came with this record, so it's an original sticker from 2002 of Conqueror, and I'm like, wow, that's a piece of history. That thing has probably been through multiple people's rooms, multiple people's hands, gone through many dirty hands, and has a lived experience, And that's what's so cool about this record, is that it's not only one of my favorite albums of all time, it also has a history, Not even just this album, this specific pressing has a history, and I think that's really fucking cool. So, yeah. Conqueror, War Cult Supremacy, one of the greatest albums of all time, pulverizing mindfuck of a record that is just brilliant in every way. So, Conqueror. Alright, next one on the list we got Beharit, Drawing Down the Moon. I've talked about Beharit so many times on this channel, but the truth is there'll never be another band like them. There's a lot of bands that sound like them, but nobody copies them in a way that's meaningful. But yeah, this album is one of the most important albums in my black metal journey. It's not only one of the greatest albums of all time. I've played it, I think, around 70 times. It has some of the greatest songs ever, but it also, more than that, it changed my life in the sense of appreciation for black metal. Before this, a lot of my favorite bands were just very tried and true raw black metal. Dark Throne, Gorgoroth, Satyricon, Goat Moon, Mayhem. The very generic one-note black metal bands. Not Goat Moon. I love Goat Moon, but it's not a critique. It's just me saying they all are, Norwegian-style black metal. Beharit, though, was the band that changed that for me, because it was adjacent to that, but it had so much unique atmosphere that it separated itself from everybody else. On top of that, you got the mysticism mixed with the neo-pagan and occult atmosphere with songs like Summerlands, Nuclear Girl, Gate of Nana. This felt like a ritual that you weren't supposed to be at. It felt like you were in a room with someone with a cult summoning a god, and you were not invited and you weren't supposed to be there. And that's what this album feels like, and it's just so special. One of the best albums of all time. Front to back, it's just replayable, catchy, memorable, classic, and there's not a band like them. There is, but again, they'll never compare. So, Beharit, Drawing Down the Moon, legendary. Alright, the next album on the list is unfortunately one that I again share with Wyatt. We got Depeche Mode, Violator. For me, the best band of all time, across all music, is Depeche Mode. No band has been so replayable and so essential in my life. It feels like I can take them anywhere, I own this is just the CDs. I got a bunch of vinyl that I'll talk about in a sec, but just the CDs. I got Speak and Spell, Broken Frame, Construction Time Again, Some Great Reward, Catching Up, Question of Lust, Black Celebration, Violator, Songs of Faith and Devotion, Songs of Faith and Devotion Live, Memento Mori, and then another copy of Black Celebration. And then on the vinyl front, I own Construction Time Again, Some Great Reward, Black Celebration, Music for the Masses. Then I got, I believe Music for the Masses, 2 copies of Violator, Songs of Faith and Devotion, Flying the Angel, and Memento Mori. So Depeche Mode is a band that I have obsessed over for many, many years, and to me, they are the greatest band to ever exist. I wanted to be honest, this album is so weird because it feels like it pulls me, you know? I think Songs of Faith and Devotion is a better record in some ways. I think Black Celebration is darker, and I love that winter feeling. But something about this album feels timeless. It feels like it is commanding of respect, which, I mean, it's a brilliant fucking record. If this album feels like the peak of Depeche Mode, it still has my favorite Depeche Mode song. Well, my favorite Depeche Mode song is In Your Room from Songs of Faith and Devotion, but after that, Halo has always been my favorite Depeche Mode song. It's just a epic, melancholic, beautiful song. And then this whole album, front to back, is just flawless. So yeah, Depeche Mode. It kind of feels funny that I picked 3 albums adjacent to wyattxhim, you know, whatever the fuck. Classics are classics for a reason, man. Alright. The next one we got Mortician. Chainsaw Dismemberment. Now, I got the Mortician flag. I think I've told you guys the story about when I met Roger in Las Vegas. Mortician to me is, I'd say probably my favorite death metal band of all time. I mean, I think there's bands that are better, but Mortician hits an itch unlike any other band. Mortician, I think they lost it in the 2000s. Reanimated Dead Flesh is fucking killer, but oh god, Darkest Day of Horror and Domain of Death are kind of meh to me, but everything before and after those two are just unbelievable. Mortal Massacre and House by Cemetery, 2 masterpieces. Mortal Massacre is just thick and fucking filthy death metal, and House is thick and filthy fucking death metal with a lot of catchy grooves to it. And then you got Hacked Up a Barbecue behind me. That is just a masterpiece of a record, a catchy death metal record that not only follows the formula of the catchy, or of the brutal era of Mortal Massacre, but influences a lot of really catchy, like, memorable riffs, kind of like Celtic Frost-esque riffs. And it's, so their whole catalog in the 90s is incredible. To me, my favorite album by them, it changes every day, but my favorite, I think, universally is Hacked Up for Barbecue. Chainsaw Dismemberment, though, is the most important to me, because to me, this is the one that started the obsession. It was not the first one I heard, but it's the one that started the obsession, because I heard Chainsaw Dismemberment many, many years ago, and I thought, this is the craziest shit I've ever heard. It's like noise, and then it's a horror sample, and that was my thought. That's not what it is, evidently, but that's what I thought. And I was like, this is the worst shit I've ever heard, but it's really cool. And then, eventually I came back to it, and it clicked. Mortician, to me, is genius. This album, to me, is the most impressive thing they did. It's just so blisteringly fast. It feels like the album cover. It feels like you're in a very, very humid desert, and you're just seeping. You're kind of like being crushed by the weight of the heat. And it's brilliant record. I mean, every song on this album is incredible. Every song on every album by them really is incredible. So yeah, Mortician, Chainsaw Dismemberment, to me the greatest death metal band of all time, or rather, favorite death metal band of all time. I think there's better, but my favorite, that's not even close. That's my favorite. So yeah, Chainsaw Dismemberment. Alright, the final 2 records we'll be putting in the same segment. We are talking about the record currently playing around the court. Now, I thought about it hard. I was like, I got Sunset Mission and Black Earth, and then this one. And I thought about it. I was like, which one's my favorite? Probably this one. Sunset Mission is the most classic. That's not even a debate. Sunset Mission and then Black Earth. Black Earth is underrated as fuck. Black Earth is pretty terrifying record, if I'm honest. I mean, it's mostly ambient. Almost, I'd say 90%. I haven't listened to it in a while, but I'd say maybe 90% of it is ambient, and then 10% of it is saxophone, and it's the creepiest fucking saxophone you ever heard in your life. This album, though, I think is the perfect middle ground between Sunset Mission and Black Earth. It's got a lot of ambience, as you hear, and then it has tons of really emotional and sorrowful saxophone that I made a post about it. I described it as like a cry of an old man who lost his widow, and the only way he stays alive is by reliving all these memories that he lived 30 years ago, and that's the only thing keeping him going. That's what the saxophone of this record feels like, just an emotional whirlwind of old memories that never will happen again, and you're coping with the fact that your life has changed. That's what this record feels like. It feels like a really noir philosophical journey, and it's just unbelievable, unworldly. Sunset Mission is a brilliant one. It's just a masterful record, but to me this one's always appealed to me a bit more because it's a bit darker, I think. And this album means the world to me, partly because it was the first one I heard. Funny enough, the way I found out about this band is because Perturbator, James Kent, he is part of a project called Ruin of Romantics, and on Spotify they had a playlist called it was like James Playlist, so it was a bunch of different playlists by the members of Ruin of Romantics of their favorite songs, and I believe it was the second song on here that was on James's playlist, and I heard it, and I thought it was brilliant, so I eventually checked out the rest of the album. Funny enough, actually, I heard that song multiple times, but I never checked out the album. I just kept re-listening to that one song, and then maybe over a year ago, I finally picked up the album thinking, okay, if I like that one song, I'm sure I'd like the album, and lo and behold, it's fucking some of the best music ever composed in the history of humanity. So, yeah, Born Around the Couple Gore, Pachalui Blue. This album, but more aptly put, this band means the world to me, so I cannot praise this band enough. And then the final album, I think, I actually changed last minute what my last album would be. Originally it was going to be Deicide, and that still is on this list, but I actually have a better one. The final, most meaningful album on this list is Sodom, Persecution Mania. Now, this is a multiple fold record why it's so important. Mostly it's because of one reason. I don't know if he watches my channel. I don't think he does. I have a buddy named Clayton. He's been like a brother to me for 4 years. He lives in Utah. I live in Oregon. And from what I remember, he had a Bathory shirt in his profile, and I replied to him on a random thread. I was like, dude, I like your Bathory shirt, thank you. And he said, thank you, man. We started talking, and Sodom was the band that me and him bonded over. He's not so much anymore because your taste evolves, but he has a In the Sign of Evil tattoo on his shoulder, and Sodom has always been the band that I've connected with him. And Bathory and Sodom were those two bands, and to me, Sodom is very important. This album is very important to me because this was the one that I heard, and whenever I would talk about Sodom with him, it would be this album. And so I don't want to attribute my friendship with him to Sodom because, we would connect over different things, but this album was a cornerstone of that. This album, and I'd say Under the Sign of the Black Mark by Bathory. And on top of that, it's a great record. I don't listen to Sodom that much anymore. Creator is, by every measure, my favorite of the big four. I almost put on this list, but I wanted to keep it kind of short. It would be on the list, though. But yeah, Sodom, Persecution Mania, great album, but more than anything, it's because I remember good memories with a friend who I still cherish to this day. So, yeah. So that's the list. I'll probably do a part 2, maybe, if I get around to it, because there's a lot more albums I can cover. I mean, I had Deicide. I could do Morbid Saint, Titan Blood, Pro Fanatica. Pro Fanatica could have been here too, but I mean, there's so much shit I can do. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know what you thought of the list. If you want to carry on the thread, make another response video. If not, it is what it is. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.